from there, and just
And
trying to.
we are live.
There we go. Good
Hi,
Hello.
morning.
Good
guys.
morning, Maryann. Good morning, Justin. Thank you for
Morning.
joining me today and joining us. Our who are watching. We have some really great content today that Maryann is right in Maryann's wheelhouse. She put together just great tips and tricks. Before we dive in head first, I just want to say thank you all for liking, subscribing, and watching. It's really great to keep putting this stuff together and getting some great comments and feedback from people. I'm hoping that you're getting as much out of it as we are. Love to have more comments as always. Please join us and throw some ideas at us. I'm sure Matt will throw up the link there at some point. But before we get that, we are also doing a webinar next week. Oh, sorry, Matt, I'm out of order. Live is a problem with live things. So we're doing a webinar tomorrow at 1 p.m., which is a little different than our normal kind of cadence. And we have some really great guests from all different parts of the business spectrum, and we're talking about reopening New York, New York in general, but New York in particular, but in general, from any business that is looking to get started back to work, and what the new work life is going to be like in the future. So please join us tomorrow. Join the registration. We got some really great feedback on that already, and it's going to be really super informative. All right. So with that in mind,
honestly, that's going to be really fun. I've already sent it to a lot of people because,
right.
I mean, that's what people are thinking,
right.
What we need to prepare for this, even if we're not 100% sure what it's going to be.
Right.
Let's talk about what we need to prepare about. So yeah, I think it's really cool, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Yeah, us too. I'm excited doing it, and I think this is such a great group of people on the panel. Just people we worked with for a long time. So with that, we'll come back to a little bit, but let's talk about some tips and tricks and Office 365. So one of the things that we get a lot at Valiant, just in general, from support questions to for VCIOs, all the way up from top to bottom, and particularly Maryann gets them a lot, is how do you use this beast of an application? And it's, if you think about 365 as a platform, so there's so many different applications in it. There's so much user visibility. It really is a whole ecosystem that you can do everything from, it is really where you exist.
And in typical Microsoft fashion, there's usually 8 ways to do the same thing. And is any one of them right or wrong?
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Sometimes, but a lot of times it's like, oh, you could do it like this, or like this, or like this. So
like you can adapt it to your preferences or your workflows or your specific business case, and that confuses people. I mean, it confuses me too. Sometimes I'll get a client who says, "Oh, but can I do it this way?" And I'm like, "Why would you want to?" And then I realize that they have a good use case for that. And then I'm like, "Great, you can do it this way. Here's how."
Exactly.
So actually, I mean, we already talked about it, but if you have questions on how to do something, that helps me come up with material and it helps me to learn things too. So definitely submit your question, ask us. It would be my pleasure to answer them.
Exactly.
And because Office 365 has so many things, I did want to narrow it down a little bit for this one. So if you guys are interested, again, let us know and we can do another one of these. But today I just wanted to talk about Office 365 actually combining different apps together to make really a good, productive workflow.
Awesome. And I think the first one that we have on our list here, which is one that is interesting because this sparked a philosophical discussion in our meeting the other day about taking notes in a Teams meeting. And I was so excited the other day. I said to the group, I was like, "Hey guys, I checked this out. I've been running these meetings now, and we have a morning stand up, and I've been using the Teams channel to keep the notes in every day, and I keep them on." And JP and Maryann are like, "Yeah, you should probably do it with OneNote." In a better way.
It depends. Again, it's one of those. Does it work best?
Yeah.
The meeting notes. So what we're talking about is if you're having a Teams meeting, like a video meeting. There's a section where you can take notes and that'll stay with that meeting and you can keep those notes and you can refer back to them. But I just suggested, because I've used this in a different way, is that I make a specific OneNote for a channel. And then we take meeting notes, but then additional notes, brainstorming things in between meetings, and we can update the thing. So that's how I like to use it.
It's a much better way of doing it. I think I was looking at it. I was really impressed with it. It's really cool. So why don't you dive in and show us how to do it? I think it's
Well, I think Justin was going to say sometimes the meeting notes are easier if you're just if you're on site at a client meeting.
That's my kind of go-to answer for that one of which one should I use. It's like, well, the meeting notes are great if you have just a meeting and it would be like a sheet of paper, like just a page of a legal pad, and you just need to jot stuff down. Meeting notes, because they're easy and they're right there. Whereas anything that we do that's recurring or long term or is going to have a follow up, I do in a OneNote because that's more like a notebook or a binder, and you can keep other stuff in it too. So that's
Right.
at least for me how I like the breakdown of them. But like Maryann was saying too, you can do it both ways. It's what works best for you.
Yeah.
I say my use case is that we have on our YouTube site that I made Dungeons and Dragons for our office, a virtual Dungeons and Dragons session, and I made a OneNote to keep like last time on Dungeons and Dragons notes, and the one it actually has the like lore. So if they want to know like what the political status is of the imaginary island I made, it's really cool. But I'll actually show you now how to do it a little bit and what you might use it for.
Cool.
So let me just quick share my screen. I'm going to share my Teams. I'm doing this through the Teams app, but sorry, bring that up. There we go. So I'm doing this through the Teams application, but you can also do this through the browser application. So this is a company pets channel where everyone can add pictures of their pets and talk about it. But we're going to get a new Office Fish in. So I'm going to press plus. It's right here at the top tabs. Add a tab. So many options, but I'm going to do OneNote. And here you can pick one that you already have. You can actually see my D&D notes here, or you can create a new notebook. So I'm going to do that. This one's going to be pun pet names. Save, and I have it posting to the channel about the tab so that anyone who's in this channel can be like, oh, we have a new tab. What's that about? So you can click to edit the notebook. There's no content in it yet, but then you'll be able to upload it in a separate, it generally brings it up in the browser when you want to edit it. That's the Open an App. But it's really fun because you can refer back to it and you can have things on there, and it'll just be a really quick, a really quick click away from your chat.
Very cool. Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know you could add existing notebooks to that.
Yeah, that really changes the game. That it's so funny. Like this, like even just watching, I was like, oh, I didn't think about the existing notebook, and bring back like current like plans and refer back to it in a meeting, and super powerful.
Yeah, because
I mean, and I use it a lot for like brainstorming is one of my favorite things to use it for, because I tend to like want things to be in the right structure, and I'm like, oh, I gotta do the right indents. But if I need to brainstorm and just write down what's in my brain, I throw it down there, and I'm OneNote really helps with that. And then people can comment on it. They can add pictures. I can be like visualizing what I'm thinking. Really cool.
Yeah, and I use OneNote on my phone all the time. I have just we were talking about phones earlier. I have just a widget up in Android on one of my pages that has it's just a notebook of quick notes, and anytime I go to a client meeting, I just add that client in and then add it to that page and have it all there. But that's really cool that I could add that too.
I was like, oh, let me grab my
client
phone.
data on it, so I don't want to show what's there. But yeah, I use that all the time.
That's a great idea. That's
cool, and add that into a channel where everybody can have that stuff. I haven't thought about that.
And the other thing, the thought is, and we haven't hit on the OneNote part, where you can use it for recording voice notes, and it does transcription of those voice notes, which is super powerful on the main app. So that's a whole other thing we can talk about in a later date. But
I mean, actually, we did one of our first streams was all about like Office 365 productivity and collaboration, and we did talk a little bit about OneNote and some of its uses. So you can check that out as well if you want to see a little more on like other Office 365 stuff. Of course, I'm just focusing on this for now.
Very cool. All right, so we're going to move on to our next piece, which is super interesting, I found. And this one is using SharePoint and Planner, which is almost better when you say it out loud. It makes you like, huh? But when you visualize, you're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. So when we dive in there and give us a background and how to use it, Maryann, that'd be great.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with Planner, again, check out that stream, but it's basically a very simple task manager. You can assign things, you can set statuses, you can have it in different buckets and see. So one thing I like to do is if we're using it for tracking reports or tracking like editorial stuff, we've actually made, I make a lot of knowledge-based articles to publish on our website, and that's where I can put it in there, and you can see it's like things that are just my ideas, what I'm working on, what's ready to publish and needs review. So that's a great use case. So when you're doing that, it's helpful to attach files so people can actually see it. So I'll show you that now. Let me share my screen. Okay, so this is one I have for training materials on Office 365. So literally what we're talking about right now, but this is my written out stuff. You can see I've got in progress how to use Planner and ready to publish how to add tabs in Teams, which we were just talking about. So I made an article on that. But in here, you can see that like I don't necessarily have attachments on them. What if you wanted to see what that article looked like? So I do have this one at the ready. You can click how to Valiant. These are all the options, but the one I want to look at is add attachment. You can do it through SharePoint, but navigating that is sometimes like a little bit not as intuitive. I usually find the actual link to it, click share, and then add attachment through a link. Oops. That's a very long link. Pretend that that is correct. And I can be like the article or whatever I want it to actually be called. And now it's showed on card. I can just exit out of here. And here it is. It's loading the actual article that I have. And if someone else is on this with me, they can just click to it like, oh, what's the idea? Let me see what she's saying about it. And they can read my article. They can proofread, all that stuff. And then it's great. I could put it in ready to publish. I can reassign. And that person who's assigned to it now can easily access it. They don't need to go searching for it. I don't need to send them a separate email with a link that says, hey, this is the thing I want you to look at.
Very cool.
That's cool. And it looked like you could do like just upload a file too. Was that an option? Like if
yeah, you can just upload a file, but for the sake of
I mean, if it's already in SharePoint, right, it's uploaded twice. But
yeah, actually, the next segment we're going to talk about is using OneDrive Sync with Outlook. And the truth is, after we do that, you'll notice that you can do that from here as well. Oh. But we'll talk about what I mean from there, and you can just extrapolate how you could do that by using the from file.
Right, and there's one other thing I was wondering: how do you make a planner task from a file? How does that work exactly?
Oh yeah, so what you can do is there are flows that you can set up. Flow is also called Power Automate. So if you have redundant tasks, you can automate some of them, and that's a whole nother session which we will probably make soon.
Yes.
But it's actually really interesting. You could be in SharePoint and use that flow to make a planner task. You can be like, you know what? I'm making this and I actually really need to like add it to my editorial calendar. So you can click the flow and it'll pop up one of these little, Post-it note things ready for you to be on your planner. So that's pretty cool.
That's really interesting.
And automatically attached.
And that's even with Power. I mean, we gotta avoid Power Automate. That's like a whole bear they kind of dive into.
But it's really cool.
It is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. I have a bunch of examples I could go through, stuff that I do with it, going from some simple things to some more complex, but they're very cool.
and it's a whole new segment of work of a business process automation built right into the environment, which is really exciting to see, to kind of eliminate these repetitive tasks. But we'll get there. That's as a whole other thing. All right. So I think the one that our next tip and trick segment is the one that really I think causes the most confusion, the most irritation for end users. And I think internally, even myself, I gave an example the other day where we have a default security policy for sharing outside the company. And it was like a whole process to figure it out. And I was like really excited that I figured it out. And both Justin, Maryann, and Matt were like, yeah, that's the way you do it. That's one of those. I was like, yay. But it was, it's a lot of it's about attaching files in Outlook in a more modern way than we had in the past. It's really changed, and there's a lot of options. So I was going to let Maryann kind of start from the top, and Matt was confused too.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. I appreciate the, but no, you weren't. It's okay. But so Maryann, please give us a demo and show us what is a way that works consistently across. I think multiple ways. That's important.
I do a lot of training for people who are moving from like an on-premise server to most of their files being in the cloud, Office 365. So a lot of times they're worried about things like, can I just attach stuff the way I always did? And for that, we want to talk about the combination of using Outlook as usual, but with OneDrive Sync. Now, when I say OneDrive Sync, that is, we have articles on how to sync your OneDrive. So if you don't already know how to do that, check that out in our knowledge base. Syncing SharePoint to your computer. OneDrive Sync, I also want to clarify, it's called OneDrive Sync, but you can sync your OneDrive file repository and any SharePoint folder that you want.
Right.
So once you have that set up, then you can use it with Outlook, and that's what I want to show you guys. So
Cool.
I'm going to share my whole screen. We're going to have a little bit of a recursion right now. Get that little inception going. Let me see when it's ready. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, great.
Yeah. Watch that one. That's scary.
So if you have OneDrive Sync set up, you will be able to access your cloud files on your normal file explorer. So this was something that I actually got from a client at a meeting that they asked if they could do this, and I was like, oh, I've never tried. I want to attach a PDF, but it's saved in the cloud. One of the easiest ways to do it is just to drag it, drop it, and then take a look. It's attached. Now, if you drag and drop, it's always going to be an attachment and not a link, which is actually pretty good if you do have rules set up where you're not supposed to send, links that are editable to clients.
Right.
So I really like that feature. You can just drag and drop, and it's actually really simple.
But that's
and of course,
that's a 95 meg PowerPoint. That'd be hard to send, right?
Yeah.
That's almost the limit. So, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just noticed that. Sorry, Maryann. That's a good example, though, of like a large file.
Yeah, I actually didn't realize that was a PowerPoint. I think I wrote PDF.
Sorry.
This one's a PDF. We'll do that one.
Perfect. I like that one. TPS reports. Much better.
Yeah, TPS reports. Did you get the memo? Yeah.
Yes.
So we can send that and just fill it out normally.
Gotcha.
But yes, let me remove this one because that one did exceed my outgoing message size limit. And then the other thing, that if it does exceed the message size limit, then you're going to be sending a link and you can send it read-only. Again, permissions is another thing.
Yes.
All about SharePoint.
Yes, that's a whole, very much so. Yes. Sorry about that. I didn't even
Thank you for pointing that out because there's actually a warning at the top I completely ignored.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the other way to do it is if you are used to this way more, you can still do attach file. And instead of browsing the web locations and trying to learn the new way, this is something that I prefer is I just do the browse my PC. And if I have it synced, I can just go to that synced folder. So I can just go in here, add this holiday schedule. Oops, it's quickly downloading it because I clicked one that wasn't synced already.
That's great.
But yeah, it usually is very quick. I'll be honest, my home internet is not the best, and I did not follow our etiquette rules of hardwiring in. So it does take a second. But that is just really quick. You can do it that way as well. Yeah. If they are already synced to your computer and save, if there's as keep always on your computer, it won't do this download step. So
right, but it's cool that it showed though. It's actually really nice to see that people might get that pop up. So that's great that we did it that way. So that's super useful. Yeah. Actually, I want to change gears a little bit. We got a comment from Stefan. So I think this is a really cool, interesting kind of question. Is there a good solution for my MacBook that can be set one spot home base to see all my Office 365 Microsoft World? Yeah, that's a really great question.
And that's a really easy one to answer. Portal.office.com. Log into the web portal, and from there, you've got access to everything. If there's software that to download to install, it'll show up there. If it's not installed on your machine, it'll have a little button that says install on this computer. It'll automatically do the Mac versions. You'll have links to your OneDrive, to email, to SharePoint, to all the web versions of these tools and the software. And anytime you open a program, like a web program, if there's a version that you can download, it'll pop up and say, oh, do you want to download the local one, like Teams? If you go to Teams in the browser, it'll say, oh, you can open this on your computer. Do you want to install that? And you can just jump right from there.
Great. Very cool. And also he has a second question that I also really like. Also, where's the best place to learn to find learning or training on Office 365, the Valiant Way /KB is really good.
Yeah.
but that's only one place to look.
I was going to say, yeah, the second best place is there. And I don't think we have this set up, but Microsoft also does have its own learning center, which is very useful. And they've got a couple of like GIFs so you can actually see them drag and drop. But we do have a lot of information because honestly, like I like to get the actual use case from our clients and use that to produce our content. So it is a little bit closer to the small to medium business.
Yeah, Microsoft Learning site is very good in that it's very comprehensive, and it has everything from the very, very basic, how do I open up Outlook, to the how do I learn to study to pass these certification exams. So our KB is very much geared towards business use case stuff, very specific stuff. So I would start there.
But if you are more interested in having a trainer, I mean, that's my jelly and my jam. If you contact us. Yeah, just go to our contact page and you can ask us about having trainings. We, in a few months, we can call it in-person trainings, but if you want, I can do like a specific webinar for your site as well. So yeah, visit us at thevaliantway.com and we can set up a training specifically to what you need to have your people ask us the questions. And we can talk beforehand to talk about your workflows as well. So.
And then one thing I wanted to make sure that we mentioned when we're doing those attachments into Outlook with OneDrive is there's a distinction we saw a little bit of between doing the attachment and doing the link. And I think the piece that can be the biggest sort of changer in the way you work is that when you do the link, you can send a link so that, and it's especially good internal, so that instead of passing an attachment back and forth, here's this, okay, I made changes, let me send it. You do the link. When somebody makes changes in the link, they're changing the actual document in your SharePoint or OneDrive. And that is less of a thing when you're sending outside, because if you're restricting access, if you're just saying, here's a file, it's done, it's for you. But for internal, if you've got a file and you want 4 or 5 people to work on it, if you do it as a link, it'll be everybody working on the same document, and that helps with that back and forth of 2 people working on the same file at the same time and overwriting each other and those sorts of problems.
Yeah, I mean, just I'll give you the live example. We, Matt and I, and as all of us, really collaborate to build these Q&As, and we have a format. We look at them every, before we do them, and even our external one that we're doing tomorrow, we built a pretty robust both PowerPoint and kind of like an outline of the meeting, the webinar, and that's all been done through links. We didn't send any files, we didn't send any attachments. It was all like, and then once I figured out how to send a link, editable link, getting explicit links to explicit explicit users, so that we knew who had access to the file, which is why it's done that way. It's been really great because we can see that everyone has opened the file, which is really an interesting thing in when you send attachments, when people say, oh, I didn't get it, or I didn't read it and look at it. But here, when you're working together, you can be like, hey, I know that Maryann, I know that Justin's in the file. Well, I know we're looking at it together, and so it's really useful for that collaborative environment, especially when right now, when no one is collaborating together in one facility, one place. So now we were forced to use the tools to their maximum capabilities, which is really exciting.
I mean, luckily, if you have Office 365, you've got these tools built in.
Yeah, it's all there.
It's a matter of adopting them and learning how to use them, which again, training. So
exactly.
That's why we're doing this.
It's really true. It's like, and the more you use it, the more comfortable you get. And then you in the back of your head, you always be like, man, why do we do things so clunkily? Or why do we do things so inefficiently? Or we just didn't know, just using for Valiant as a company, using Teams internally has eliminated so much of my email. At this point, most of my email is like spam. It's like spam or like outside communications. Inside the company, with Teams is our main focal kind of like where we go. So
I use email to email clients, email vendors, and send email to people internally after I've sent the Teams message that's like, hey, everybody, this server's rebooting. Make sure
follow up.
Yes. It's almost like the official letter in the mail compared to the phone call. So it's just really powerful. So I think, do you guys have anything else you want to add today? Because I think this was so useful, and I love doing these. I mean, it's really cool.
I mean, again, I guess I just want to. emphasize, we want to do more of these, so tell us what you're interested in.
Yeah.
There are so many ways to combine, different Office 365 apps, or just learn more use cases for Office 365 apps, because like George was saying about the attachments for the webinar, we're still learning as well. So submit your questions. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, feel free, even if you're not watching it live, feel free to comment with some of your favorite things that was like the aha moment for you when you were like, wait, I can use cleanup tools and ignore messages and all that stuff on Outlook. That's great.
Yeah, seriously.
Anytime I'm away from the office, even for an afternoon, I use that. It's a lifesaver.
Yeah, but that's again another thing. There's also a KB on that, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So let us know if you want more. If you want specifically Outlook tips and tricks, visit us at thevaliantway.com. Let us know.
Yeah. And I like the idea of doing another one of these on Flow specifically, or Power Automate specifically, because there's a ton of cool stuff we could do there, and then, we could easily dive super deep into that.
It's the automation of connecting two things. So instead of you saying, I want to attach this file, you can be like, hey, whenever I do this, make sure that file attached.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. So anyway, please read the articles, take a look at them. There's so much good content there. And this is a lot of great information that could just make you even that microsecond more efficient per day. It adds up. It's really important. And once again, please, if you're interested, join the webinar tomorrow. It's a lot of great information on it. We're really excited to do it. We just are so grateful that we're able to have the people that are on the webinar working with us and put it together. So please join in and like and subscribe the normal Q&A. And we actually have one that was a internal suggestion for Friday from our service director, Nick Nightingale, which was video conference etiquette. Which is interesting because we've been doing. I don't know about you guys. I know I see you guys all day. I probably see you more than I did before.
Yeah,
actually, and it's kind of interesting because the video conferencing etiquette is something that can really slip really fast in a way because you're kind of like not in room together, and who knows. So we wanted to put together like a really good like tips, tricks, how tos, and some things that we've seen as best practices for running a video conference. And just having a really good just meeting. So with that, please like and subscribe. We're on social, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Join the webinar tomorrow. It's been really great. And Maryann, thank you so much for putting together this awesome tips and tricks. It was really great. I can't wait to do another one. I can't wait to do another one on Power Automate and flows and next week. So, and thank you so much, Justin. Thank you as always. The color commentary is amazing. And have a great day, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.